The Cincinnati Bengals seem to have one thing on their mind in the 2023 NFL draft: stopping offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs. First, it was Myles Murphy in the first round, the pass rusher from Clemson. Then on day two, DJ Turner, the cornerback from Michigan, and Jordan Battle, the safety from Alabama. I'm Peter Bukowski, joined by Jake Liscow from Locked On Bengals. Plenty to dig into here. Locked On NFL draft coverage presented by Ultimate Football GM. You think you can run an NFL franchise? Visit ultimate-gm.com to play the ultimate NFL GM simulation game. Start your dynasty today. And Jake, this was a team that was vanquished last year at the hands of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So what did you make of this secondary investment on day two?
The DJ Turner pick made a lot of sense to me. He was one of the guys that, as the pick was getting closer, we identified as a guy that would make sense for the Cincinnati Bengals in that spot. One thing they've shown, Jordan Battle aside, in his athletic testing, is that they are trying to get athletic in the secondary. They add Nick Scott as a free agent last year. They draft Dax Hill, anticipating the Jesse Bates departure, Cam Taylor-Britt, one of their draft additions last year as well. They added so much speed and so much athleticism to the secondary over the last 2 years, to a unit that already includes Chidobe Awuzie, who, when healthy, I think is a special athlete as well. In addition to that, the Myles Murphy pick adds athleticism to another unit on the team up front that we talked about yesterday. But in general, there is a big theme there in terms of adding athleticism and adding depth. They're not going to be caught with injuries, at least I assume is the plan, derailing them too much with adding these guys that they feel are clearly high value players that can come off the bench if they do lose guys on the defensive line in the secondary at these spots. The Jordan Battle pick, though, a bit of a head scratcher to me, Peter, to be honest. Dax Hill was drafted a year ahead of time, like I mentioned, in preparation for the Jesse Bates departure, which they anticipated. They signed Nick Scott. They drafted Tyson Anderson last year as well. Michael Thomas also on the roster as the veteran, the uncle of the room, Uncle Mike in the Bengals safety room. So I'm not really sure where Jordan Battle fits. Obviously, if they pick him in the third round, they have a vision for Jordan Battle and what he will do for this team, whether it's pushing Tyson Anderson, who was a day 3 pick last year and had an injury, off the roster or into a smaller role, or whether he challenges the longtime NFL veteran Michael Thomas. Those are possibilities, or maybe they just really like him as a third safety for big dime packages. That's also possible, but going to be curious to see how he fits. Once we got to the third round, I really thought the Bengals were going to flip the script and go back to the offensive side of the ball. That's 5 picks in the first 3 rounds in the last 2 years dedicated to defensive players.
Yeah, we didn't even really get to see much of Dax Hill last year, but they add his teammate, DJ Turner, and drafting a Michigan cornerback has worked out for the Bengals in the past. So I'm interested to see where you think he fits into this secondary this year. Is he someone you think can push to have a starting job?
I don't know that he's going to be starting early in the season, but I think you probably very quickly become comfortable with him being your first guy off the bench, probably at any of the cornerback positions. Mike Hilton, a fantastic slot corner. DJ Turner profiles to be able to play there as well, and played outside at Michigan. So I think he has a movement skills to move inside, the movement ability to move inside and mirror the two-way goes that you get in the slot. But he also played outside at Michigan and was pretty good there, had a lot of production in terms of pass breakups, in terms of being present at the catch point with the ball skills and the 4.26 speed. Like I mentioned, adding speed and athleticism to the secondary. Does he push for a starting job this year right away? Part of that's going to depend on Chidobe Awuzie's recovery from the ACL injury. It sounded like, from what we heard from him in the offseason program, he was on track to return for opening day this year. But regardless, I think if they're healthy, he's the first off the bench, and you feel pretty good about that because they've lost guys in the secondary each of the last couple of years, and they've had to turn to that depth, at least at some point in the season. And that's clearly a theme to me of this Bengals draft is, let's improve our depth on the defensive side of the ball where it gets tested. Again, though, I'm just surprised that they haven't turned to that offensive side of the ball yet.
It helps when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They have some pretty good players over on that offensive side of the ball. Jake, Thank you so much for joining us. For more from the Locked On Bengals podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.